All right, let's talk a little bit of Saints here. Kellen Moore is going to meet with the media tomorrow at 1:30, so there'll be some great quotes coming out on that. And then I would imagine he'll be pretty quick to the road to get some staff members put into place and get this train leaving the station. But part of this is now looking at the current roster and determining how you want to operate this thing in the short term. And some of those decisions may have some sentimental impact on Saints fans. And some of them will be Saints decisions and some of them will be player decisions. But one of them is going to come from Taysom Hill. And Taysom Hill, one, got to the NFL very quote-unquote late, because when you go on your mission, you play at BYU, you get into the league into your mid to late 20s, unlike a lot of folks that show up in the league at 21, 22. So while Taysom Hill hasn't been around for as long as some folks at that point, you're talking about a guy who's now climbing into his mid-30s. And the question is, does he want to rehab from this ACL, which he suffered late in the season, and you'd have to come back probably mid-season for a team that doesn't have phenomenal prospects on next season, and go put your body through that again? And like, Taysom Hill can only play one way. Taysom Hill can only play as a battering ram who's physical and seeks out contact and is a guy that blocks at the end of the line of scrimmage and takes hits in the running game. And like, he's only got one gear, and we've seen it, and it's been an awesome gear for New Orleans. But what do you do with Taysom Hill? And the question is, does he want to play? If not, your decision is made for you, because you just put him on the veteran minimum and facilitate that retirement like you did with Ryan Ramczyk. If he does want to play, you've got to determine what you want to do. And the Saints can get $10 million in relief in 2025 if you release Taysom Hill and move on. The dead cap hit would be about $8 million for this year, and then in 2026, about $9.5 million, which sounds awful, but every team's carrying some dead money, and the Saints are going to enter a spot here where there's going to be some dead money attached to what they're doing with some of these aging players on the roster. But in my estimation, without the sentimental attachment that a lot of Saints fans have to Taysom Hill for great reason, I don't think Taysom Hill is going to be on the next good Saints team. I don't think he's got a role on the next good Saints team, because I don't think he's going to play much this year. I don't think the Saints are going to be very good this coming year, and I don't see him having a big role on a 2026 team with his current age. I mean, you're talking about a guy who he's 34, and you're talking about a guy at 36 playing that style of football. I just don't see it. I mean, am I crazy? I just don't see it. So to me, while it's unpleasant, part of this has got to be unpleasant. And you're looking at guys like Taysom Hill, like Ryan Ramczyk, like Cam Jordan, like Tyrann Mathieu, eventually Alvin Kamara, that you're going to look at and see, like, how do we want to handle this money? You've made your decision with Kamara, and Tyrann says he wants to play 2 more years, and we'll see. But Ramczyk's made that decision for you. DeMario hasn't slowed down just yet. So I'm thinking at this point, when I look at these aging Saints, the only one that I'm looking at going, okay, this may be a separation point, if you're not including Derek Carr, who is 33, but is not really, there's not much sentimental there. There's a lot of sentimental value in all the rest of those guys. I think it's time to move on from Taysom Hill. And this is coming from a guy that said don't pay Kamara and don't extend him. And it's coming out of that same mouth. But I'm doing it because I think that you've got to start this process and start to free up a little bit of money and start to see if you can't take some chances on some younger players that are cheaper. And Taysom Hill is old and expensive and hurt. So that's 3 strikes. And then when you add that to where the state of the roster is right now, it just doesn't fit. This isn't a fit. You love Taysom Hill. You got the jerseys. You love the effort. You love the tenacity. You love the teammate. You love the investment that he's made in the city and in being a Saint, the roles he's taken on, whether it's been starting quarterback in Breeze's stead as an injury, whether it's been tight end, whether it's been punt protector, like whatever, he's just done it. And I love that, and Saints fans love that. But the time for trying to hold on to all that is gone. And I'm going to play this parallel that very few of you will understand initially, but I'm hopeful that it gets the message across. Like, I was emotional when the Cubs moved on from the core that won them a World Series. When they traded Anthony Rizzo and traded Chris Bryant and traded Javi Baez and let John Lester walk and let Wilson Contreras walk and all these guys that meant so much to the greatest run in the history of the organization, it was painful for me as someone who invested emotionally in that team. But those guys failed elsewhere with massive contracts. And the Cubs got out from under it, and they got younger, and they got cheaper, and they got one of the best farm systems in baseball, and they were able to go out and spend some money on Dansby Swanson and spend some money on Seiya Suzuki. And y'all may not even know who those two players are. But the point is, there's a part of you as a fan that hates to see guys that you have invested so many hours and so much emotion with, see them move on. But ultimately, it can be the right thing. And there's no guarantee that the Saints are going to take these savings and reallocate them into the draft and into free agency and hit and immediately get back to the top of the division. The Cubs have not even played in a playoff game since they did all that. Now, they're over a 70% chance to win the division this year, but there's no guarantee that it works, and it sucks in the moment. But that's the part of this that the Saints have to start with now, because there was the optimism of, let's get the new coach. And that optimism was invested into the search. Well, the search is over, and now the work begins. And the work is cleaning up the current roster and pumping it with new young talent. And I think one of the decisions that has to be made, whether it's Taysom making it or the Saints, is with Taysom Hill. And with his injury situation and his cap number and some savings that you can create this year, and maybe what that'll allow you to do with some extra cash or just to get under the salary cap, for crying out loud, I'm good with it. And so I think that's a tough thing to swallow for Saints fans, but that's part of what this process is going to look like over the next 5 months and then over the next 15 months when you go through this next season, go through another draft, another free agent cycle, and some of those other guys that I had listed start to come off the books slowly but surely. Hey, it's Hunt. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.